They called her just the gun cleaner, a quiet woman in coveralls who polished weapons and stayed invisible among elite soldiers. What they didn't know was that this unassuming contractor could outshoot every single one of them at distances that defied belief. What they couldn't imagine was that she was about to attempt a shot so impossible that it would shatter multiple world records simultaneously. And what they would never guess was that the biggest, most arrogant soldier on the base was about to learn the most expensive lesson of his military career. The armory door exploded open with a bang that made Jessica's coffee mug jump. Staff Sergeant Tyler Brooks strutted in like he owned the place, his special forces team trailing behind like hungry wolves. Brooks was everything the military recruitment posters promised. 6 feet 4 inches, square-jawed, radiating the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. His uniform was immaculate, his boots polished to mirror shine, and his chest decorated with enough ribbons to stock a craft store. Jesus Christ, they've got the cleaning staff touching our precision equipment now. Brooks sneered, his voice carrying the particular brand of disdain reserved for people he considered beneath notice. His pale green eyes swept over Jessica like she was malfunctioning equipment. What's next? Letting janitors fly fighter jets. His teammates erupted in the kind of forced laughter that said more about their fear of Brooks than actual amusement. Corporal Martinez practically doubled over. Maybe she thinks it's a really expensive vacuum cleaner, Sarge. Jessica continued her work on the Chaytak M200, her movements deliberate and controlled, but her jaw tightened imperceptibly. She'd heard variations of this conversation 1,000 times. The assumption that because she wore coveralls instead of camouflage, she must be incompetent. Brooks stepped closer, his presence looming over her workstation. "Sweetheart," he said, the endearment dripping with condescension. "This baby costs more than you make in 8 years. Maybe stick to mopping floors where you can't break anything important." Without warning, he reached over and grabbed the rifle from her hands, his fingers leaving smudges on the pristine metal she'd spent 2 hours cleaning. Jessica's knuckles went white around her cleaning rod, but she said nothing. "Look at this craftsmanship," Brooks continued, holding the rifle like a trophy while his audience gathered closer. .408 Chaytak precision instrument, effective range of over 2,500 meters in the right hands. He glanced meaningfully at Jessica. "Of course, that's assuming the operator knows which end the bullet comes out of. I bet she's never even fired a weapon," whispered Sergeant Collins, always trying too hard to fit in. "Probably thinks the safety is a suggestion." Brooks's grin widened. This particular rifle has accounted for 23 confirmed kills in Iraq. 23 bad guys who won't be threatening American lives anymore. That's what real marksmanship looks like, sweetheart. Jessica's hands stilled on her cleaning cloth. 23 kills. She'd put more rounds downrange at longer distances than Brooks had probably fired in his entire career. But she couldn't say that. Wouldn't say that. Not yet. "Tell you what," Brooks said, his voice taking on the tone of someone delivering a punchline. "Next time we need someone to polish the bullets real pretty, we'll give you a call. Leave the actual shooting to the professionals." The group began filing out, but Brooks paused at the door with theatrical timing. "Oh, and sweetheart, try not to break anything while we're gone. Some of us have real work to do." The door slammed shut, leaving Jessica alone with the smell of gun oil and controlled breathing. Tomorrow's long-range qualification would do the talking for her. The morning briefing room buzzed with energy as Brooks stood at the front like a conquering hero, his Chaytak propped against the wall like a trophy. The previous day's exercise had gone exactly as planned, a 2,800-meter shot through a simulated target with textbook precision. "Gentlemen," Brooks announced, "yesterday's exercise proves what we already knew. When it comes to precision marksmanship, there are shooters and there are pretenders." He gestured toward his rifle with reverence. "This beauty, and I just set a new facility record. 2,800 meters of pure surgical precision." That's when Jessica appeared in the doorway, toolkit in hand, her coveralls still bearing yesterday's gun oil stains. The room's energy shifted as conversations died and heads turned. "Excuse me, Sergeant Brooks," she said, her voice cutting through the silence with surgical precision. "I need to discuss something with you about your rifle." Brooks's eyebrows shot up. The cleaning lady interrupting a briefing was unprecedented. Well, Brooks said, voice dripping with theatrical surprise. "The help has something to say. This should be entertaining." Jessica stepped into the room, seemingly oblivious to the 20 pairs of eyes tracking her movement. That scope is off by 4 clicks to the right. I noticed it during maintenance. Your grouping yesterday could have been tighter. The room went dead silent. Brooks's face underwent a transformation: confusion, disbelief, then anger that started at his collar and worked up to his hairline. "You got to be kidding me," Brooks snarled. "The cleaning lady thinks she can school a Green Beret on rifle maintenance." Jessica didn't flinch. 4 clicks right. Your 2,800-meter shot was impressive, but it could have been perfect. Better than perfect? Brooks's voice was dangerously quiet. "Lady, that shot was dead center mass at nearly 2 miles. There's always better," Jessica replied simply, "especially when your equipment isn't properly zeroed." Brooks exploded like a claymore mine. "Fine," he roared. "You want to play expert? Let's see what you've got, sweetheart. Range 1 hour. Put your money where your mouth is." The challenge hung in the air like smoke from a discharged weapon. Jessica tilted her head slightly, considering. "One condition," she said finally. "When I outshoot you, you publicly apologize to every support staff member on this base." Brooks's laugh was harsh. "When you outshoot me? Honey, the day you outshoot me is the day I turn in my tabs and become a mall cop." Word of the challenge spread like wildfire. By the time Jessica and Brooks reached the long-range course, half the facility had gathered to watch. The range master approached with the target selection board. "What distance we talking?" he asked. Brooks puffed out his chest. "Let's make it interesting. 3,000 meters. Give the lady a fighting chance." Jessica shook her head. 2,847 meters. The crowd murmured. The range master's eyebrows rose. Brooks's smirk faltered slightly. 2,847, the range master repeated. "Ma'am, that's beyond our current facility record by nearly 50 meters. That's championship-level distance." Jessica's smile was small, but razor-sharp. "I know." Brooks stared like she claimed she could fly. 2,847 meters was an extraordinary distance, a shot that would shatter the facility record and establish her as one of the finest marksmen in military history. "You're serious," Brooks said, his voice losing some of its earlier confidence. "Deadly serious," Jessica replied. The desert wind whipped across the range as Jessica lay prone behind the massive Chaytak. The target was barely visible even through high-powered spotting scopes, a standard silhouette positioned at exactly 2,847 meters according to the rangefinder. Behind her, nearly 300 soldiers and contractors had gathered. The betting had reached fever pitch, though a few smart operators noticed something in Jessica's eyes that made them hedge their bets. Brooks paced like a caged predator, his earlier swagger cracking. "She's just stalling," he muttered. "Probably never fired anything bigger than a pellet gun." Jessica's fingers moved across the scope adjustments with concert pianist precision, each click calculated and deliberate. The calculations flowed through her mind like water, muscle memory built from thousands of hours in the Arizona desert with her father, Master Sergeant David Chen, Army Ranger sniper. David Chen had been one of the Rangers' finest marksmen before an IED took his leg in Afghanistan. Unable to serve, he poured everything into training his daughter, turning weekend desert trips into master classes in precision shooting. By 17, Jessica could consistently hit targets at distances that challenged seasoned snipers. By 22, she was better than her father had ever been. "The rifle doesn't miss, Jess." She could hear his voice as clearly as if he were lying beside her. "The shooter misses. The rifle just does what you tell it to do." Through her scope, the target danced in the heat shimmer. At this distance, it looked like a postage stamp held at arm's length. The margin for error was measured in fractions of inches. Atmospheric pressure 30.15 and falling, called the range safety officer. Humidity at 42%. Wind steady at 12 miles per hour, gusting to 18. Jessica nodded, making final adjustments. The crowd had grown quiet. "Target hit," crackled the radio. Then Sergeant Patterson's voice, his professional composure shattered. "Dead center. Perfect shot. That's 2,847 meters. New facility record by 47 meters." The silence was profound. Then the crowd exploded in a roar that could be heard at the next base over. Brooks's knees buckled. His face cycled through colors, red to white to green, as he stared through binoculars at the unmistakable evidence of Jessica's impossible shot. The woman he dismissed as cleaning staff, had just broken the facility record. Jessica sat up slowly, ejecting the spent cartridge and safing the rifle. She looked back at Brooks with something that might have been sympathy. "Good shot," she said simply, as if she'd just made a routine repair. Within 48 hours, Jessica's shot had exploded across military networks. The cell phone footage went viral, racking up millions of views and spawning debates about long-range marksmanship capabilities. But the real transformation was happening closer to home. Brooks approached her on the third morning, his swagger replaced by genuine humility. "Chen," he said quietly, using her last name for the first time. "Can we talk?" He sat down heavily, like a man carrying invisible weight. "I was wrong. Dead wrong. Not just about the shot, about everything. About you. About the way I treated everyone who doesn't wear the same uniform I do." Jessica set down her cleaning rod. "It's not about the uniform, Brooks. It's about recognizing that skill can come from anywhere." Colonel Harrison, the base commander, called Jessica to his office within days. "In 35 years of military service, I've never seen marksmanship like that. The Pentagon wants to study your technique." Jessica shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, I'm happy with my current position." Harrison smiled. "I'm not trying to recruit you, Chen. I'm trying to promote you. How would you feel about becoming our lead marksmanship instructor? Full contractor position, quadruple your salary, complete authority over the long-range training program." The offer was staggering, going from invisible maintenance worker to premier shooting instructor in a single bullet. "One condition," Jessica said. "I want to establish a program to identify hidden talent among all base personnel. Too many people get overlooked because they don't fit the traditional mold." Harrison's grin widened. "Done. What do you want to call it?" "The Hidden Excellence Initiative." 6 months later, the program had become legendary. Jessica's first graduate was Carlos Mendoza, a mess hall cook who could outshoot Navy SEALs with a pistol. Her second was Lisa Park, a motor pool mechanic whose tactical knowledge rivaled seasoned infantry officers. Brooks became one of Jessica's most dedicated students, his former arrogance transformed into genuine curiosity. He spent off-duty hours learning from the support staff he'd once mocked. "You know what the crazy part is?" Brooks said one evening as he and Jessica cleaned rifles together. "I thought I was hot because I could hit a target at 2,800 meters. But you didn't just beat my distance. You made me realize I've been aiming at the wrong targets all along." The Chetak M200 that made Jessica famous now hangs in the base's Hall of Fame, mounted with a brass plaque reading, "The rifle that proved excellence has no uniform." But Jessica's real legacy lives in every overlooked person who refused to stay invisible. The shot that started as personal vindication became something larger, a reminder that extraordinary capabilities often belong to ordinary-seeming people. Jessica Chen had hit a target at 2,847 meters, but more importantly, she'd hit the bullseye of human potential that exists in everyone, waiting for someone to believe it's worth aiming for. The most extraordinary skills often belong to the most ordinary-looking people. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one with the loudest capabilities. From which city are you watching this video? Please write it in the comments. Don't forget subscribe to She-Force Tales.